This is Jeffro's MP5. Just in for a service and get it working basically. Most of the wiring was trashed. It had been chopped and stuck back together again several times, so it's had pretty much all new wiring like throughout this bit of the stock and then through the gearbox and stuff as well. The only bit of wiring I kept was the little bits that go down to the motor because they were in okay condition. It wasn't firing due to electrical faults, so it was a full strip down and clean it, service it, new O-rings, grease, check the shimming. This gun had obviously had some work done by another tech who was pretty good at some point in the past. It had an ultimate blue piston in it. It was well shimmed. I only had to swap out one shim, a 0.2mm needed changing to a 0.1mm on the spur gear just to give it a little bit more play. It was rubbing. It was a little bit too tight when the gearbox was torqued down. Yeah, the trigger on this, being a version 2, he'd spaced the trigger forward a bit by attaching plastic to the back of the trigger sled, which actually gives it quite a nice trigger pull. It's a very light trigger. It's not the fastest gun in the world because it's not got a MOSFET. It's only on 7.4 standard motor, no short stroking. Original spring by the looks of it, because it still had the like hook, like lump of metal bracket thing at the back of the piston head. But it's acceptable, you know. Now, one of the problems that I've got with this, I've only just put it back together and started testing it, is it shoots full auto on semi. But I'm in two minds whether I can actually fix that. I suspect it's just due to how the trigger's been spaced. I don't know if it was doing it before because the gun wasn't firing when I got it. But because it's actually got such a light trigger pull, the fact it fires full auto on semi, and the gun's not that quick on 7.4 volt, it doesn't actually matter that much. Like if I demonstrate, so this is on semi-auto, the trigger's that light you can bounce it and still only fire one shot at a time. That is on semi-auto. That is just me lightly tapping the trigger. That's how light the trigger pull is. It's a very nice trigger. But if I hold it down on semi-auto, it does do full auto. So it's actually not that slow of a gun actually, but the trigger's that light you can just tap it. So in that respect, it's almost like a two-stage trigger because you can tap it for semi-auto like quite easily, and then you can hold it down for full auto as well without actually having to switch the selector. Obviously it does do full auto in automatic setting. Safety still works as well, which is one of the main things. That's safety on. I redirected some of the electrical contacts inside. It did have the electrical conductor plate on the selector, which I don't like because it's just two more resistance points that are like when you apply the safety. These would be the two electrical contacts. When you apply the safety, it removes a contact plate that goes across them, so that it's electrically isolated, as well as having the trigger block that comes up and stops you being able to pull the trigger when you swivel the safety into place. So I actually bypassed that because the plastic safety is perfectly adequate, and I just wanted to remove some resistance from the system. So that probably helped with the rate of fire. I'm testing it on quite a big battery actually. It's on a 35C2200 7.4 volt, so that's why it's got quite a nice fire rate. But with this full butt stock you can fit a nice big battery in there. I've got my knackered old 2-stick 15C 7.4 volt battery. That's what I use for testing guns when I've first reassembled them, because it's an extremely weak and old battery, so it limits the danger of damaging anything. It's a really nice MP5 to be honest. All metal upper, metal rail kit. I've put a new battery. In the optic. Can I get the camera to see it? Probably not. I'm gonna have to pick it up. There you go. I've put a new battery in the optic that can do red and green. So that's working again. I just needed a 2032 coin cell. But so if it's okay with Jeffro, I'm just going to leave this as it is, because I think it's going to take me several more hours and another strip down of the gun just to get the semi-auto working. and as I've proved, you can just tap the trigger because it's such a nice trigger setup. I suspect I'd have to remove the shims on the back of the trigger to increase the trigger pull so that semi-auto would start working again. So you'd end up with a gun that does only do one shot on semi, but is a lot slower because you've got to pull the trigger a lot further to get a shot out of it. So again, this is semi, and the trigger's so light. And you can just hold it down. Empty. So I'm actually very happy with that. That was just a stripped down service, reshim, grease, new O-rings, and that's doing 330 FPS almost every time. It was like 327 to 334. Very nice, I'm very happy with that. I hope you are as well. If it really bothers you, then I can strip it down and remove the trigger adjustments and make it so semi-auto does limit it to just one shot, but I think the trigger is very nice as it is. It's quite a light trigger pull. The previous tech who worked on it has made his own trigger spring, so it's got quite a light trigger for a version 2 gearbox. It's very nice. I hope you're happy with it.